Hello, my name is Beck and welcome to my second TBR video for April, but the magical readathon is happening this month and I'm so excited. And I participated in the prequel readathons to this, but if you haven't then you can just dive in whenever. So I have a bunch of reading prompts that were created by G from Book Roast and I'm just going to get into them because she's doing this readathon twice every year, in April and in August. So this is a precursor to what will happen later. It's kind of like if you're attending Hogwarts and you're doing their owls and the newts exams at a magical school. She's moved it away from Harry Potter and she's doing her own thing now because we don't want to represent J.K. Rowling. So I'm on board with that. I'm quite excited. And we're doing the spring equinox readathon at the moment, which is the April readathon. Even though in Australia it's in autumn, but we're just going to roll with it. There are a bunch of guides, guilds, careers, conduits, weapons, specialities and stuff, which a lot of it just goes over my head, but I've managed to choose a couple of things to narrow down my reading prompts. So I'm a mind walker and I have the conduit of a dagger, which is my kind of weapon or magical weapon, and I've chosen the career of mind melder, I think? Mind mender. Almost, but that has about 5 different prompts, so I'm going to try and read about 5 different books. The first prompt is Alchemy, which is a book featuring romance, and I have 2 options for this. I've either got Lore Olympus, which I recently hauled and I was supposed to read in March but didn't quite get around to it. I think this is like a Hades and Persephone retelling, so it does have romance in it. And then I've also got my reread of Heartstopper, all of the volumes that are out so far, because the Netflix adaptation comes out at the end of April, so I'd like to reread these potentially in time for the release of the Netflix show, but if I don't get them in time then that's okay, I'll just dive into the Netflix release. I'm not too fussed about having finished it, so hopefully I can read something on my TBR or I can revisit something that I know I really enjoyed. The next prompt is Spells and Incantations, which says short stories or essays. And I really don't read short stories or essays, so this is a really hard one for me. I would have put graphic novels on here, but to me, while they could potentially be used as cheating, they're not technically a short story. They're a full-length story, but they're shorter because they're in a graphic novel format. So that wasn't quite right. So I've looked up one of my favourite authors, Brandon Sanderson, and he has a ton of novellas, which are like short stories, I suppose. Maybe that's cheating still, I'm not sure. Let me know, but I'm going to do it anyway, so. The 2 short stories are Defending Elysium and then Sixth of Dusk. And I know that Sixth of Dusk is a Cosmere story, and I don't know what story or novel that relates to in his Cosmere kind of universe. If you didn't know, Brandon Sanderson has written a whole bunch of books in Cosmere and out of Cosmere, so some things are interplanetary and they kind of cross over in minute ways, and then stuff sits outside of the Cosmere which doesn't connect. So Defending Elysium is one of the non-Cosmere books, and I think that is Skyward related, but it predates Skyward, so it's before Skyward, but you don't need to read it before Skyward to understand Skyward. Clear as mud, right? So I want to read those 2, maybe just one, but I do have them as ebooks, so I have options for when I get to that prompt. The next prompt is called Psionics and Divinations, and for this one it says you need to read a book set in the future, and I'm going to assume that the Book of Coley is set somewhat in our distant future because it's an apocalyptic science fiction. Who knows? I'm just going to count it because I don't have any sci-fis that I want to put on here that seem to match the prompt, and this is probably the closest I can get. Plus this is already on my April TBR, and if I can get as much crossover as possible then I will, to make it easier for myself. So the Book of Coley is an apocalyptic book, and the main character Coley has been told all of his life that he can't go beyond the wall, but now circumstances have arisen where he can't stay behind the wall and he has to go forth beyond the wall, and I don't know what that entails. I think there's going to be some kind of nature versus human kind of thing happening here, but beyond that I'm not really sure. I really enjoyed The Girl with All the Gifts and The Boy and the Bridge by this author, so I'm hoping that I enjoy this installment as well. But if you know my track record, I read a couple of books by authors that I've read from before and really enjoyed, and then the new thing that I read by them I've gone no, and I've either DNF'd it or given it 2 stars. So I hope that doesn't fall in the same category because I really want to enjoy this. Then I've got Restoration, which is a book featuring healers, which is a really hard thing to choose. But thankfully I have watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, and in that show there are elemental people, really cool stuff. However, waterbenders, they have some healing abilities. So because I knew that waterbending had healing properties, I was like, I'm gonna read the graphic novels because I really wanted to read these for so long and I just haven't bothered getting them. So I have now ordered The Promise, which is the bind up of the first 3 volumes or the first 4 volumes, and that's set after the Avatar: The Last Airbender show. So I'm looking forward to continuing that because it's like a revisit to my childhood. So it's partly nostalgia and then partly new stuff, all mixed in one, and I'm really looking forward to it. I actually got the shipping notification that it had been posted today, and I'm so excited to receive it in the mail. And then lastly, I have Demonology, which sounds cool, but the prompt is read a book with shadow in it, and that means the series title or the book title. This was really hard. The only book that came to mind immediately was Shadow of the Gods, and there is no way I'm putting a massive book on this list that I may end up DNFing because I've had a bit of a rough track record with that author and what I enjoy. I was like, no, that's not happening. So I ended up picking out a reread that I kept meaning to get to over the past couple of months, and I haven't been able to make time for it, and that is Night's Shadow by Sebastian de Castell. This is the second installment in his Greatcoat series. The first one is Trader's Blade, and I have a separate review for that. It's basically swashbuckling and sarcastic protagonists going up against things that should be way too overpowered for them to fight against, but for some reason they keep managing to maneuver around situations, which I really enjoy the kind of dynamic of. So I'm looking forward to revisiting this, and the audiobooks are so good. So hopefully if I finish Red Rising in time, because I'm currently listening to that on a reread as well, if I finish that then I'll get to this as soon as I can, but if not, maybe I'll pick up the physical book. Who knows? Maybe in the meantime I'll find something else that has shadow in the title and just swap it out. Ultimately that is my magical readathon TBR. If you're participating too, let me know down below. I'll go check out your TBR because I'm really interested to see what people have chosen, and I don't know if my prompts are on the harder side or if other people are struggling as well, but I've managed to cobble a list together, so I'm pretty proud of myself. But thank you so much for watching this video. I'll come chat to you down below in the comments, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.